All right, I first want to say congratulations to all our finalists. You guys did amazing and you should be so proud of yourselves. And then, of course, I want to thank the judges, our final judges, for being here today. We really appreciate your time. With that, we can get started and I will turn it over to the judge.
All right, so for our first speaker, we have Soa.
Can I start?
I'm sorry?
Can I start?
Oh, yeah, of course. I'll start time on your first word.
Okay. Imagine a world where your closest friends are made of fabric, filled with stuffing, and always there to listen. For me, as a child, my stuffed animals were more than just toys. They were my closest companions, each with its own personality, sparking my creativity, emotional growth, and understanding of relationships. They provided a sense of security and stability, helping me navigate the world around me. In this speech, I'll share how my stuffed animals shaped my imagination, nurtured my emotional development, and taught me compassion. My stuffed animals played a key role in developing my imagination. By assigning personalities and backstories to each, I created entire worlds and adventures. As Albert Einstein once said, imagination is more important than knowledge, and my toys help me embrace the endless possibilities of creativity. Similarly, Dr. Seuss's words, "You're off to great places, today is your day," echoed through my childhood as I explored new realities with my stuffed animals by my side. These adventures sparked my curiosity, inspiring me to dream bigger and see the world in unique ways. Beyond creativity, they also nurtured my emotional growth. When I was upset, I'd talk to them, finding comfort in their silent support. Aristotle once said, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." And through these connections, I began to understand myself and express my emotions. A. Milne's words, "A hug is always the right size," perfectly capture the emotional support my stuffed animals provided during tough times, teaching me how to care for myself. Their unwavering presence helped me build emotional resilience, offering a safe space to process my feelings without judgment. Additionally, my stuffed animals taught me compassion. They each needed care and attention, which translated into my real life interactions with others. Maya Angelou's words, "Diversity makes for a rich tapestry," helped me appreciate the uniqueness of each and every one of them, and by extension, the importance of showing kindness to everyone. As Ralph Waldo Emerson wisely said, "You cannot do a kindness too soon." And my stuffed animals taught me the value of empathy and compassion. In taking care of them, I learned to approach relationships with patience and understanding, qualities that continue to shape how I interact with others today. Reflecting on my childhood, Simba, my stuffed lion, was my constant companion, teaching me care, empathy, and imagination. He wasn't just a toy, he was my emotional anchor, offering comfort and sparking imaginative tales. Now, Simba sits on my bed as a reminder of the creativity and compassion he inspired in me. He holds a special place in my heart, symbolizing the enduring bond between a child and their cherished companions. In conclusion, my stuffed animals shaped who I am today by sparking creativity, nurturing emotional growth, and teaching compassion. They're my teachers in life's most important lessons, showing me that sometimes the greatest lessons come from the quiet companions who have always been there. Looking back, I realize how these small, soft figures shape my values and perspectives on the world. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, move on to now to our second speaker, Sophie.
Great. I'm pulling up my timer just really quick.
It's all good. Is there any like signals you want us to give or?
No, I'll have it on my screen, so I'm gonna be
All right,
okay. But thank
sounds good.
you. Mhm. How many things do you pass on a daily basis that you just gloss over? It could be something that caught your eye on the walk to work, only for you to shrug it off. A person you heard a blip about in conversation, or a thought you can almost grasp, but not quite. Well, what if one day one of these things leads you down one of the most interesting rabbit holes you've ever been down? That's exactly what happened to me when I decided to look more into a series my grandfather had in his house. A series which I would discover lead back a century to a woman and would change the lives of many. Sometimes the most shocking discoveries come in the mundane. So today, I want to guide you through the discovery that I made not too long ago. The discovery behind My Book House, a series of children's literature that was published in 1920. We're going to be examining this series in three different chapters. The first chapter being the history of the books in the series, the second chapter reflecting on the author Olivia Brimee Miller and her groundbreaking role as a female publisher in the early 20th century, and the last chapter is going to conclude our journey by examining how this still plays into our modern day interpretations of everything. So, the first chapter is starting out with what in the world I'm talking about. I've tried to relate this series to people in my personal life, friends who didn't grow up with it in the same way that I did, and it kind of always falls on deaf ears. You know the thing I really love and am passionate about? And they look at me blankly. So, to get us all on the same page, I'm going to take you from the beginning. Published all the way back in 1920, My Book House was a collection of 6 stories for children. These were a collection of fables, fairy tales, and nursery rhymes, all with illustrations to go along with them. The books were originally published under the My Book House for Children Publishing Company, and their original purpose, according to the author of the books herself, from a Chicago Daily Tribune article in 1950. She says that she writes books because the stories that children learn from the books are far more lasting than any sermon that could ever be preached. The author of the column, a father to a little girl, agreed with the sentiment wholeheartedly, saying that the lessons that his daughter picked up from the books were valuable and so important to her development. These books were critically acclaimed. They flew off the shelves not only because of their teachings of young children for good morals, but also because of the sheer amount of variety there was in the books. You see, the books utilize an innovative system of age-relative writing. They took the age of the child into consideration for each volume. The first volume was Baba Black Sheep, simple, basic nursery rhymes that led all the way up to books that look a little bit more like this. Multi-page stories, still for children, but with big words and more complex plots and grammar structures. The book series grew and evolved with the children who read it. The stories that my grandfather owns, he owns the full collection. But it's a mixed bag. He owns a second edition from 1921 and a later edition from 1926. Now, he is my grandfather, but he is not nearly 100 years old. He says that these books were likely hand-me-downs from a cousin who had outgrown them. These were the same books that my grandparents had deemed good enough to keep around until they had use for them with my mom and her brothers, and they were the same books that I remember loving growing up. So the books are timeless. But that makes you wonder, if the books were such a success, who was the person behind all of this success? Who made these books? Who published them? Who made this happen? Olivia Brimee Miller was born in 1883. However, her journey with the books starts more around after she graduated college and after having worked as an English teacher, but before having her child. This is when she plunged herself fully into her love of literature. However, she didn't discover her niche for children's literature until after having her first daughter. This is a time period where she started writing nursery rhymes, just for her. She wrote dozens, sold a few here and there, and eventually she had enough for a collection of her very own. With the help of her husband in 1919, they founded the My Book House for Children Publishing House. And just a year later, the first editions of My Book House hit the shelves. In the following years, Olivia Brimee Miller traveled globally, from China to Japan to Holland and more, to gather information for her next series, My Travel Ship, which would focus on folk tales and fables from around the world. Her goal in this was to expose American audiences to a wider variety of cultures, something she wished she had growing up. Her journey with My Book House was Her journey as a female publisher in My Book House didn't stop there, though. It got more complicated. In 1935, she and her husband divorced, and she was elected the vice president of the board upon his departure. However, the board only did this to try and get her out of a managerial role. It was still the 1930s, and as a woman, she wasn't taken especially seriously in the workplace, even if that workplace was her very own. However, just 3 years later, she was the chair of the board, a position she would hold for another decade and a half. As I stated before, all of her accomplishments are made even more incredible when we remember the context and time this all took place in. It's no secret that in the West, in the early 20th century, was not the easiest time for women, especially women who wanted a career. The U.S. Bureau's Department of Labor didn't even the U.S. Bureau's Department for Women and Labor didn't even exist before 1920, and the creation of it, according to the Bureau itself, was the first time the federal government took a practical stand on the conditions and employment of women. This is partially due to the sheer amount of social taboo there was for a woman, particularly married women, to be in the workplace. During that time, just 20% of all women were engaged in some labor force participation outside the home, and only 5% of those married were, according to Brookings. But Olivia Remy Miller wanted her business to reflect who she was. She was a woman in business. Her sales team was comprised of largely women, and women were also the managers of her office branches. She took a firm stand against what was considered socially acceptable of her. Her advocacy for women in the workplace was pushed up by her actions and her beliefs. The Dalai Lama once said, just as a single pebble is dropped into the water, creates ripples, the actions of an individual can have far-reaching effects. While learning about Olivia Remy Miller, it became obvious that her advocacy work for women and her goal of teaching morals to young children were evident in almost everything she did. However, those actions aren't just pinpointed in one point in time, they spread out. They create ripple effects that are still felt today. When researching for this speech, I came across a blog post from 2013 by Jennifer Livier, who works in publishing and children's literature. However, oddly enough, she says that as a child, she wasn't really much of a reader. Her love of literature and reading came about in her adult life. However, she does recall very vividly that her family had a full collection of My Book House when she was growing up. She writes in the article that her literary knowledge prior to her bookstore years came from these 12 volumes. What stemmed as an interest in these books growing up would eventually blossom into a career working with books, one series that would change the trajectory of her life. But it wasn't only her. Under her post were dozens and dozens of comments expressing the same sentiment. How the post made them reflect on their own time with the books. How they remember going over to a friend's house after school to read them. How this books now sat on their shelf, well loved and well worn. And reading all of these personal stories made me reflect on my own time with the books. Growing up, they were always at my grandparents' house, and as a little girl, I would get so excited when my grandparents needed or wanted me to come sleep over. I remember I would always pick a different one from their collection, and my grandfather would read it to me to help me fall asleep. My grandfather, my grandfather was always the person who would read to me growing up. He was the person who showed me the old stories that he grew up with. He was the person that taught me to love reading, to accept it as something that could be fun and not just work. My grandfather has a very similar connection to the books that I do with his own parents, the great-grandparents I never got to meet, how his mother would read to him after school. And my mom remembers the same thing with my grandfather, him reading to her after he got home from work. The books traveled with my grandfather as he transferred in the military, moving 3,000 miles until they found their permanent home in Seattle, the city where I was born, raised, and read to in. So, as we conclude the story today, I want to give you a reminder. Books are interesting even beyond the page. People can and do make significant impacts, even if you've never heard their names. And even though the story of My Book House is closed, so many continue to remember the lessons they were taught by these books. So go, pick up a book. You never know what story you might discover under its pages. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up we have Vahan.
Vihan.
Vihan, I'm sorry.
Okay. I'll go whenever you're ready for me.
I'm going ever. We can start
And
timing your first word.
you can see and hear me, right?
Yep, it's all working good. You're all good.
Okay. Imagine beginning every day with a short and easy yet intense practice that strengthens your body, quiets your mind, and aligns you with something much greater. Even a few minutes of it can enhance your entire life. This is what sun salutation is all about. Sun salutation is more than just a fitness regime. It's a moving meditation, a flowing sequence of movements and breaths that awaken, balance emotions, and bring a profound sense of connection. It's a meditation in action. In a world beset by disease and stress, sun salutation shines as a complete answer to strength, flexibility, and peace of mind. Why did I choose this topic? I chose this topic because sun salutation has helped me tremendously more than just fitness by helping me gain mental toughness. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the 12 poses of sun salutation. But first, let's start out with a little joke. Why did the yoga student bring a ladder to the classroom? Can anybody guess? Because they wanted to reach their highest self. That was a good joke. This was supposed to be a joke, but I find some of this real. All right, now let's dive into the 12 postures of this exercise, all leading to a harmonious sequence. First up is Pranam Asana. Pranam stands for a respectful bow or salute. In this stage, an FYI, I'll be calling the person doing the sun salutation as yogi. In this stage, the yogi joins their hands together and takes a deep breath. Next up, we have Hasta Uttanasana. Hasta stands for hands, Uttana stands for raising them up. In this stage, the yogi arches their hands backwards and takes a deep breath, connecting themselves with the earth. This is followed by a quite complex pose called Hasta Padasana. Hasta stands for hands, Pada stands for feet. In this stage, the yogi has to join both their hands and feet without bending their knees. This is followed by Ashwa Sanchalasana. Ashwa stands for a horse. In this stage, the yogi performs a forward lunge with one leg, mimicking a horse trotting. This is followed by Dandasana. Danda stands for punishment. In this stage, the yogi is basically performing a plank. Next up is Ashtanga Namaskara. Namaskar stands for bow or reverence to the Almighty. This is almost the same as Pranam Asana. However, the yogi is on the ground, basically performing a push-up. This gets them ready for the cobra pose, Bhujanga Asana. Bhujanga stands for a cobra snake. In this stage, the yogi maintains their push-up pose while looking upwards, almost like a cobra lifting their hood up. This is followed by Bhagavat Asana. Bhagavat stands for a mountain. In this stage, the yogi shapes their body in the shape of a mountain. As you can see right here, the next four are a repetition of what we've already discussed. Ashwasanchalasana, Hastapadasana, Hastottanasana, and Pranam Wow. So we have performed stretching, planks, push-ups, and this all helps with sequencing. But what about those who cannot perform such complex poses? There is a modified version called chair sun salutation. Here, the yogi still performs some similar routines to the traditional version, such as inhalation, exhalation, stretching, head and neck, but do not strain their body as much by doing the complex poses like planks and push-ups. The details of this version are a topic for another day, but I will mention there are some benefits to this version which will be talked about. Also, what is better than getting energy from our most powerful energy source, the sun. So, now we are going to dive into the benefits of sun salutation. Why do this? I divided my benefits into three groups: physical, mental, and spiritual. We're first going to start out with physical. A study shown by the PubMed Centrals stated that sun salutation enhances fitness levels, improves coordination, posture, and balance. Another study shown by the Lifeform showed that sun salutation improves sequencing, and we could see that right here. Next, a study from the Google Scholar Group stated that sun salutation improves cardiovascular health, and this stimulates the blood circulation. Lastly, a study shown by the Mahagata.com stated that chair sun salutation decreases falls of older people by 45%. Also, when I started doing sun salutation, I started losing belly fat and started getting back in shape. Now, we're going to get into the mental benefits of sun salutation. First, a study shown by the Very Well Helpline showed that sun salutation enhances concentration and mental health, toughness. Next, a study from the Helpline stated that sun salutation decreases stress and enhances your brain function. Lastly, a randomized control session stated that even 1 day of sun salutation can reduce anxiety for a short period of time. On days that I do sun salutation before going to school, I feel much calmer and do better on tests, sports, concerts, etc. Now, the moment we've all been waiting for, spiritual benefits. A study from the Yoga When You Teacher group stated that sun salutation enhances gratitude in the yogi and spiritually connects them with something much higher than themselves. Lastly, a study shown by the Sun group stated that sun salutation enhances mindfulness. So, in conclusion, sun salutation is not just a fitness regime, it's a moving meditation in action. I hope I've clarified the holistic nature of sun salutation, a routine that nurtures your mind, body, and soul. The best thing about sun salutation is it does not require. In conclusion, sun salutation is not just a fitness regime. It's a moving meditation in action. I hope I've clarified the holistic nature of sun salutation, a routine that nurtures your mind, body, and soul. And here's the best part. It costs nothing. No gym equipment, no powder, no fees. Just your body, your breath, and a few minutes of your time in the convenience of your home. So would you like to try sun salutation and see the change for yourself? Thank you.
Thank you. I will continue with Sadmika.
Okay. Are you guys ready? Would you believe it if I told you your DNA could be taken apart and rewritten? Well, yes, it can. Thanks to gene editing technologies like CRISPR, scientists now have the power to modify your genes, opening doors to curing several genetic diseases, advancing the treatment for curing cancer, and even preventing genetically inherited diseases. In our quick and rapidly growing society, every child deserves a healthy future. Yet, many are born with genetic diseases that limit their potential in life. Gene editing technologies like CRISPR bring the possibilities for curing these genetic diseases within our reach, offering hope to families and children. This invention has the potential to revolutionize modern medicine, creating a huge impact on the future of the medical field. One of the most compelling reasons to study this field is its potential to transform society's health by treating or even preventing genetic diseases that affect millions of lives. I chose this topic because ever since I was little, I always wanted to become a doctor. And doctor's need is to cure a person's health. And everything about a person is their DNA, the blueprint of life. And if you can edit that DNA, then you can cure anything. Now,
I'll tell you the what CRISPR stands for. CRISPR stands for clustered, interspaced, short, palindromic repeats. As we learned in elementary, a palindrome is a word that could be read the same as its backwards form. For example, wow, pop, or rotator. Why would CRISPR be palindromic, you might wonder? CRISPR is palindromic because its genetic code is often reversed, but it's read the same. Now that you know what that is, how exactly does CRISPR allow the treatment of genetic disorders? So, as you can see here, this DNA has a bad gene. So, CRISPR would go in and take that bad gene away and then replace it with a good DNA. And this good DNA is called a spacer. So, in Scientific American's article, What is CRISPR and why is it important? It states that CRISPR was first found in E. coli. E. coli is a bacteria and it takes immune information from its invading virus and replaces it with its own DNA to make its DNA more immune and healthy. Not only is CRISPR curing genetic disorders, but it's also advancing the cure for cancer. CRISPR is often compared to precise, easy-to-use scissors as it cuts down cancerous DNA, replacing the unhealthy DNA with immune genetic information. Many researchers call CRISPR a game changer in the field of cancer. The National Cancer Institute states, scientists have also used CRISPR to detect the specific targets such as DNA from cancer-causing viruses and RNA from cancer cells. CRISPR is also widely known for treating inherited diseases like the sickle cell disease. The sickle cell anemia is a disease where your red blood cells are genetically affected. These diseases are diseases you are born with, so they cannot be stopped from acquiring. Using CRISPR, doctors take out the genetically variant gene and replace it with a healthy gene, giving you a very healthy DNA. Dr. Hope Henderson, in her article CRISPR and Health, informs that a patient named Victoria Gray with sickle cell anemia was cured with the help of CRISPR and is now living in good condition. I've lost many due to cancer, a widespread deadly disease, but the creation of CRISPR has given hope to everyone fighting cancer looking for a cure. In conclusion, if CRISPR is used with great responsibility and care, it can revolutionize modern medicine, curing genetic disorders, cancer, and genetically inherited diseases. The future of healthcare is getting a major upgrade. Are we ready to keep up with care and responsibility? Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have Shreyazi.
Am I ready to begin whenever?
Yeah, of course. Just let us know.
Who dares to teach must never cease to learn. At age 5, I had this vision for the perfect world, one where everyone freely shared their knowledge with each other, building upon one another's strengths to create a better, more connected world. I did just that, starting with the emotionless stuffed animals that sat in my room, waiting for a life-changing lesson. Every day, I placed them in an imaginary classroom set. They didn't have meaningful conversations like I had hoped, but they always had this sense of respect. My dream was simple yet bold, to share every bit of knowledge I had with the whole wide world. 8 years later, I wondered, if we live in a country where we're always striving to achieve the standard of excellence, then what are we, as a nation, willing to change to meet every student's needs? Currently, the U.S. education system primarily focuses on academic achievement, preparing students for colleges, careers, and civic engagement. The U.S. is known for its diverse schooling options and various specializations. Yet, a significant problem that plagues the system is the fact that many students' educational futures are dictated by their family's socioeconomic status. Today, we will touch the corners of the globe, seeking various countries' transformational education systems in hopes of improving ours. Approximately 5,000 miles away lies Finland, the country that has repeatedly held its title of having the world's strongest education system. They call it the Finnish Dream. No standardized testing until the end of high school, rather honing students' creativity and critical thinking skills. At the heart of this program is a deep respect for its teachers. According to an article published by The Guardian, the Finnish government ensures that every teacher has high academic credentials and the ability to be treated like professionals. Every teacher is required to uphold a master's degree. Therefore, they're given the autonomy to design their own lessons and make judgments guided by what they truly believe is best for their students' educations. Perhaps the U.S. could shift towards more pedagogical autonomy and invest in their teachers' professional development, thus fostering a more dynamic environment for all U.S. students. Nearly another 5,780 miles away, we land in Singapore. Here, they use the phrase, every school a good school. And this isn't just a captivating slogan made by the nation's heads. Rather, it's a pledge. Perhaps the high academic performance of Singaporean students is linked to its government's robust involvement within education. According to the National Center on Education and Economy, Singapore stands out among OECD countries for its low percentage of low-performing students and its high percentage of high-performing students. Currently, Singaporean students are split into 3 different sectors based on their educational goal, a stride initiated by the government to offer students with various abilities different approaches. Perhaps by emulating Singapore's strategic government planning and individualized pathways, the U.S. could perhaps maintain more equity throughout all of its schools. Don't get too tired because our final destination marks the end of our somewhat 15,000-mile journey, Japan. Known for its extreme rigor, Japan ranks in top 10 for best education systems, with its particular focus in mathematics and science. Japanese students have learned a very valuable life lesson, one which U.S. schools could definitely foster within their students: discipline. Because as a public school student, I've seen it and experienced it. The Hetchinger report shows that 1 in 4 U.S. students have missed almost 10% of the school year, where they then struggle to catch up with the class's pace. Yet, in Japanese culture, being on time and taking matters seriously are fundamental gestures of respect and consideration for others. These schools prioritize student attendance and punctuality. Statistically proven by a study conducted by Murray City School Districts, students are 1.7 times more likely to achieve academic success if they obtain discipline. So, in conclusion, to truly improve and transform the U.S. education system, I guess we must consistently evolve, just as the world around us does. As we look from a global perspective, we find countries such as Finland, Singapore, Japan, all leading the charge with education systems that prioritize teacher autonomy, individualized learning, and discipline within students, values that have helped us redefine the terms of academic success. Wherever we start, I guess we're always teaching and learning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, what a great job, everybody. I'm so proud of you guys. All right, learners, students, you can head out. Great job today. You should be amazingly proud of yourselves, and your family should be proud as well. I will hopefully see all of you guys in the future. Judges, if you want, I can wait with you for a few minutes to turn in your ballots, but as soon as you do, feel free to just take off. And thank you again so much for judging.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Have a good
guys.
day.
You too.
Thank you.